Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and welcome to week 10 of my film journey. So if you're not aware, I have been physically journaling all of the things that I've been watching and the things I've been picking up. So that's television to movies, and it has been a blast so far to be doing this. It's been really nice to engage with the medium this way because I feel like I'm getting a lot more out of my film journey in general, and yeah, it's just been fun to explore this every week and see how my mind shifts from the beginning week to the end, honestly. So but before we jump into this, I want to say there's going to be a live stream happening on Saturday the 28th of September. This is going to be at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, so please join us for a double feature live stream. Each week I've been doing a peculiar pairing where I've been pairing two movies that I think have a slight theme connected to each other, and it's been really fun putting it on Instagram and also on the community tab here. It's been just a fun little double feature thing, so I want to kick off with a live stream where we're talking about the double features for the month, and then also kind of hear from you and everyone who has been watching their films as well. Any double features that you've been watching and would possibly recommend. I would love to hear your thoughts. So I'm looking forward to that. So again, that's 1 p.m. Central Standard Time on Saturday, September 28th, and I will see you there, hopefully, and I hope you enjoy this video. And before we jump in, let me know in the comment section down below what you've been checking out, what you've been watching, and I know you're probably getting ready for spooky season. You know I am. All right, before we jump into the journal itself and all the films that I watched, let's talk about a little haul that I had from Hamilton Books. If you're not familiar, Hamilton Books is a great source for a lot of reasonably priced movies that you probably won't see. Every once in a while, you'll kind of see the titles that I have picked up here, and I don't have too much thoughts on terms of why I picked these things, so it's going to be really brief, me going through all the things that I picked up. But I hope in the subsequent weeks I'm going to be talking about these movies more and more as I go through them. But I have a little haul here. It was about 100 and some change, and I got quite a bit of movies for that, so it was a really good haul, I think, overall. But let me share with you things that I picked up. All right, so let's start off with something I have seen, but I haven't seen the 4K version of this, and I've been wanting to get it for a bit, but I picked up Roadhouse on 4K. This is the Vinegar Syndrome 4K, and this is stacked with special features, which is going to be exciting, but also just exciting to kind of see this in the 4K edition. I recently rewatched this film with a group of friends, and we watched the normal Blu-ray of it, but of course that's great enough. But I'm excited to kind of dive into this, and I've heard nothing but really great praise in terms of the quality that this 4K is, so I'm really excited for that. But this is just a classic Midwestern film and is set in Missouri, which is where I'm from, even though it may be kind of a little bit fictional, but it's really fun. I love everybody in this movie. Patrick Swayze is, the king of cool in this movie, and Sam Elliott is also right there along with him. But I love this movie, and Roadhouse is a really fun time, so I'm excited to check this one out. Again, probably not in the near future because I just recently watched it over the summer, but I'm definitely excited to check it out nonetheless. All right, so the next film is one that I can't remember. I believe that I got a recommendation from this, but I cannot remember who I got it from. But I picked up 24-Hour Party People. This is starring Steve Coogan, who I'm a big fan of, obviously with the Trip films and things like The Other Guys, which that's one of my favorite. But this is an early 2000s film. I believe this came out in 2002, and I guess is following this local TV personality, Tony Wilson, who is played by Steve Coogan, and he is working at a record label, and it kind of goes into the UK record label business. I don't know much about this movie, but I've heard fun things about it, so I'm really excited to kind of check this out. It's got Manchester sex, drugs, and music on it, so of course it's got to be a fun time, and Steve Coogan is always great as usual, so it's going to be an exciting watch. All right, so the next film I picked up is one that I just saw the title, and it seemed interesting, and it is Tiara, which I believe means Earth, and is directed by Giulio Midem, and is a film that looks really interesting. It looks like a romance drama of sorts, but it has a surreal bent to it and some unnatural stuff going on in the background. But I'm excited about this. I'm wondering if anyone has seen this movie. This is actually from Olive Films, which I have quite a bit of their titles, and I quite enjoy their work, but obviously a lot of their stuff is just the film itself, which is honestly fantastic. The film itself, that may be getting on a side rant, but that's what I'm focusing most on is it accessible in Blu-ray in some form. But I'm excited about this film. It looks like a romance drama of sorts, and it has some elements in it just based on reading the description of it that really kind of showcase that I might be really fascinated by some otherworldly things going on. And next, since we are so close to spooky season, of course I have to pick up a horror film, and I picked up You Are Not My Mother, which is a magnet release, and just like the title suggests, a woman disappears, comes back, and is not all there. And maybe they are not the mom there, but it looks really fascinating and looks quite terrifying. There's a scene right there, I guess, of her putting her whole hand down her mouth. So this is going to be an interesting one, and I'm excited to jump into this soon since it is spooky season. Following that, I got a 4-film favorites set, which I'm not normally a huge fan of these things, but for the sake of price and also accessibility, it's quite good. It is a Clint Eastwood 4-action-pack film. Stars as The Enforcer, Firefox, Absolute Power, and Sudden Impact. So this looks really interesting and a lot of fun. I honestly need a lot of Clint Eastwood. I have a lot of blank in his filmography. A lot of the things that I've seen are the spaghetti westerns that he's been a part of, and less on maybe like the Dirty Harry side of things, or these kind of shoot 'em up type movies. But I'm excited about these action thrillers, and I'm definitely going to dive into this one of these days and jump into some Clint Eastwood stuff. Moving on from Eastwood, I picked up a film that is starring Blythe Danner and Sam Elliott, I believe, is right here. It's called I'll See You in My Dreams, and this movie looks like a really fun time. It is about a woman who has been very routine-based their entire life, and it's been kind of losing its luster. So there's maybe some romance that comes in and kind of disrupts that and kind of changes the whole dynamic of that. And it looks like a fun time. It looks like a good romance comedy of sorts, but it's definitely a Sunday afternoon type of film that I definitely am excited to check out. So I'll See You in My Dreams. So moving from the romance is a Sony Picture Classic, which I'm a big fan of Sony Picture Classic, and is a film from 2008, is I've Loved You So Long. It is a French film with some English subtitles, of course. It has Kristen Stewart Thomas, or Scott Thomas, who is our main character here, who is a doctor who has just recently got out of prison and for an unspeakable crime, but it looks like a drama of sorts where she's just trying to piece herself back together from this past of hers. And it looks like a very interesting film. I've heard really high regards about it, but I'm excited to check it out. And like I said, Sony Pictures Classic has a really good track record, so I'm probably not going to be disappointed by this film, but I'd love to know if you've seen this one. And the next film that I picked up is one that is starring one of my favorite actors, so of course I had to pick this one up. It is Paul Rudd and Emile Hirsch in Prince Avalanche. I remember seeing the trailer for this film quite some time ago, but I never got around to picking it up, so I got it for a really good price. It is directed by David Gordon Green, who's done a couple of good movies, and then, touched Halloween, of course, which is a whole other boat. But this looks really fun. Of course, it's got Paul Rudd here. I think it's like a farm life type of film. It looks like a lot of shenanigans are going on in this movie, and it seems like it's just a warm kind of summer type of movie. And yeah, I'm excited to check this one out. Prince Avalanche, have you seen it? And the next movie I picked up is a Kino Lorber title, one that I've had on my wish list for a bit, but I saw it on Hamilton Books for a really good price, and so I kind of jumped at it. And it is directed by Sidney Lumet, who is one of my favorite directors. It is called The Group, which I don't know much about, and it has the girls and the men, who has a lot of people in here. Honestly, I am just excited to kind of understand a little bit more about this movie, but it looks like a kind of a battle of the sexes type film, but Sidney Lumet does not disappoint. So I'm very excited about The Group, and getting it for like $5 is just like steal. All right, so the next film is actually produced by Martin Scorsese. It's an Italian film. It is I Siambra. I probably said that incorrectly, but it is directed by Jonas Carpinago, who, this is his second film, I believe, and is a coming-of-age story about this young boy right here. And it kind of, just based on reading it a little bit, it definitely reminds me of something like The City of God, where there are definitely some coming of age and also really hard times coming up with the youth and kind of growing into this. But it looks really fascinating, and it has some high regards to it as well. But it's a sophomore film, and it's going to be an exciting one nonetheless, I'm sure. So I'm looking forward to checking this movie out. Just a few films left, but the next one I have is Together, which is a pandemic film of all sorts. It is starring James McAvoy and Sharon Horgan, and is directed by Stephen Daldry. This is a film that looks like it's going to be a rough one, but also, I don't know, it might also be some delightful moments might come about as this movie, as it just kind of looks like one of those films that does that. But it also seems like a hard to find romance drama of sorts, but it looks really interesting, and also looks at the pandemic itself and the fact that, like, you can't, you know, get away from somebody because we have to be in this one space together for a long time. So it looks really fascinating, and I was definitely excited about this. It didn't come out too long ago, 2021, so definitely very real and very recent things that have been happening in the world. This looks like a really interesting film. Second to last thing I'll show you, one is a movie that I actually watched for the week, which we'll get to, but it is a box set. It's the biggest thing that I got from this entire haul, besides Roadhouse, of course. It is a Severin box set, one that I've been wanting to kind of dive into and get the second volume of, and that is the Danza Macabra Volume 2, the Italian Gothic collection. So I believe this one is kind of getting hard to get, but I definitely that was definitely the most expensive thing on the Hamilton Books site that I picked up, but I'm really excited about this. This actually has a show in it, I believe, or like a mini series of sorts, and then I think 3 films itself. So 3 classic films and 1 mini series here. This is going to be an exciting set to watch, and there might be something coming up with this 31 Days of Halloween soon, I'm sure, that might involve something like this. But this actually has a 4K of Castle of Blood. It has Jekyll, which is a 4-part, I think, mini series that exists. They have changed their face as a film, and The Devil's Lover. But it's an 8-disc set, so it looks like it's going to be stacked with things. I haven't even opened it yet, so I'm really excited about diving into this, and also just Volume 1 in general, which, spoilers, I might be doing for Halloween. So this is going to be exciting times, and watching some Italian Gothic films is just going to be, you know, bliss. And the last film I picked up, and one that I watched for the week, is a film called Stoker. And this is directed by Park Chan-wook, who I am a huge fan of, and I'm sure a lot of you are as well. But this is an American film, Stoker, and is about this Stoker family here. Nicole Kidman is phenomenal as she is the mother of Mia right here. I cannot say her last name correctly. And then we have her uncle, who just mysteriously comes out of nowhere, called Matthew Good. That's the actor here. But this family is definitely, something is completely up with this. It's a really tight thriller. It's very frenetic. I really enjoy Park Chan-wook's kind of like just the way he directs this movie. It's definitely very Hitchcockian, and a lot of the twists and turns that are happening in this movie. And he definitely has a point to make every single thing unnerving. And any close-up he has of some object makes it really unnerving. And also just the performances here are some of the best I've seen out of these actors in general. And I was a little untethered the entire time as I was watching this movie, but it was a fun time nonetheless. I would definitely give this movie a 4 out of 5. It is a movie that I definitely highly recommend checking out, and I got it on Hamilton Books, like I got all those other releases I just talked about, for a really good price. I believe I got this for like $4. So I'm really excited to get this film, and excited to check out more of Park Chan-wook, even though I'm been a huge fan of his for a long time. So Stoker, definitely recommend people check this movie out. It is a great mystery. Now, before we dive into the rest of the films that I watched during the week, I also wanted to kind of do a sidestep and talk about 2 books that I picked up, and 2 of them that I'm really excited about diving into, because, as you know, I have been in a David Lynch mood, and we'll get to some more David Lynch today as well, but I picked up some books. And the first one I picked up is Twin Peaks, a novel by Mark Frost. This is the Secret History of Twin Peaks. I just took off this lovely little folder here. I have the used copy here, but this, oh man, this is beautiful. But I think this came right before The Return, this book, and is kind of showcasing what happened between those 25 years. And this is a secret dossier of sorts. And I've just been told really fun, good things about this, of course, as we are collecting through this entire story. But I am just fascinated by, this entire world that David Lynch has created in Twin Peaks and the characters that are involved with it. But this is a really cool used copy. I got this for about $30, so it was a good price for me to pick it up as, because I think new copies of this are like really expensive. So I think it might be out of print. But so if you get yourself a chance, and you are a fan of Twin Peaks and want to know a little bit more about the town, I've heard really, really good things about this, and so I'm really excited to dive into it as I'm going along through my David Lynch journey. But this isn't the only book that I picked up. I actually picked up another film book that is connected to this. It is the Final Dossier, which came out after The Return, which I didn't mention this earlier, but this is both written by Mark Frost, who is a co-creator of Twin Peaks. And I know there's some controversy with David Lynch being involved and whatnot, and also I'm sure there's people who are in the headspace of, well, we don't really need to know past The Return. That was kind of a perfect way to end these things. But the Final Dossier, I'm excited to dive into this as well, because I know there was a lot of criticism, I think, at the time of not really knowing much about a lot of the other characters that we grew to love in the first 2 seasons and through Fire Walk with Me. But I'm excited about this one too. Also has that slip case right here that it just has this beautiful thing connected to it, and definitely more in the Return type of fashion, because yeah, it's a dossier, and this one looks like it has more stuff like on the Double R, on Major Briggs and Dr. Lawrence Jacoby. Some really weird things that you would see in The Return that you didn't really get seen to explore too much. So it looks like it's going to delve into a lot of that. So I'm just excited to read more, because that's something I've been missing a lot. And Twin Peaks just happens to be a recent obsession of mine. So I'm excited to finally jump back into this show and David Lynch's world, and also Mark Frost, the co-creator. So it was good to get these books, and I'm excited to jump into them and tell you more about it as I do that. So really fun stuff. Happy to get these books, and excited to jump into more David Lynch, which we'll get to in a second. Besides watching Stoker, I had a pretty busy week where I wasn't able to watch too much, but I definitely wanted to watch a few things that are horror adjacent, and also just recent David Lynch love has been kind of getting me into this headspace. And so we're going to talk about some of those. But the first film I picked up and watched was The Cursed. So The Cursed came out in 2021 and is a pretty recent werewolf film, and one that I thought was very fascinating to go in the direction that it did. It is a Gothic tale that has this family who has this estate that the young boy kind of gets dragged off by this mysterious force, and there might be some kind of werewolf involved that you may or may not see a couple times. And I really love the atmosphere of this film. I think that the scares and just the costume design and the landscape in general are some of the best highlights of this movie. It's a movie that definitely you can get enthralled into the world, and this cursed object of these fangs that come about in this movie that are almost the catalyst to a lot of the awful things that are happening, and the premonition to what it was to come. But I think this movie is really good in terms of those strengths, but I think one of the detractors for me was seeing the creature itself. I'll let you watch it for yourself, but the CGI kind of ruined it a little bit for me, and then also just kind of getting more and more images of that creature, it kind of threw me out a little bit. Obviously, I think, budget wise, I'm sure that there is a good reason why this is the case. Besides the CGI effects, I do think the creature's design is actually quite cool, because it's unlike any kind of werewolf film you will see. It's very Cronenberg with Carpenter elements to it it's very gross and slimy and bleh. But it's definitely, it detracts a little bit because of the visuals itself. And I think less is more in most cases. But this is a really fun Gothic werewolf film, and one that is unlike a lot of things that I've seen. So I definitely recommend people check this movie out. It might be a 3.5 out of 5. It is a good time. Definitely check out The Curse. This is a really fun werewolf movie, and a very original and inventive one. So I said at the top that I was doing a double feature live stream coming up, and I've been doing double features every week of a peculiar pairing, and this week I did a peculiar pairing of these two films, which I'll talk about a little bit more in depth during the live stream. But I talked about Blue Velvet, and I talked about Trinque la Queen. I'm going to talk about this one in a second, but let's first talk about David Lynch's Blue Velvet. So as everyone knows, I just watched all of Twin Peaks and kind of was blown away by it. I have seen Blue Velvet before, and this is a movie that did not interest me at all the first time I watched it. In fact, I kind of blew it off and thought this was a TV movie of sorts. It kind of reminded me of it. It's weird to be weird, and I never really understood kind of the dark underbelly of what this movie, the tone was all about. And after watching Twin Peaks, it kind of clicks with me now, and I kind of understand that a little bit more. And watching things like Wizard of Oz or, the Lynch and Oz documentary that I talked about, this was just really fun to kind of jump back into David Lynch's world. And I thought this was a fantastic kind of companion piece to Twin Peaks of sorts, because it also has Kyle MacLachlan, who is our main character in here. He is a morbidly curious individual. We have Laura Dern, who is really young in this as well, who kind of plays his love interest, who is also a little bit weird and gets into this morbidly curious scenario where he finds his ear out in the middle of a field and hears that this might be involved in some kind of killings and some sketchy things going on at this apartment. And at this apartment, you have Isabella Rossellini, who is a fantastic actress, but also very dramatic and very overstated in this movie, and in such a good way, who happens to be in this place, stuck in this situation, up in this apartment. You also have Dennis Hopper in this movie, who is untethered, and Dennis Hopper is just notoriously untethered and somebody who is really difficult to work with, but he plays this character perfectly for this film that makes you very uneasy and very nervous about what is gonna happen next. But I really enjoyed this movie, and the mystery of this film being it's more straightforward than I think I gave it credit for the first go around than I watched this movie. But the underpinnings of what this is kind of showing, the surreal mystery to this story, is more on the characters' actions and less on the world building itself. Although the world itself is that suburban nightmare that David Lynch is so well known for. But Blue Velvet, really fantastic film. There are a lot of extra special features in here that I have not jumped into, which is shame on me, but I will get to when I have the time. But I have been enjoying this David Lynch journey so much. It's tremendous, because like I said, I didn't like this movie and I didn't like David Lynch for a long time. So Blue Velvet, it might be a 5 out of 5. This movie is that good. I gave it a 4.5 because I think I need to get more time with this movie. And is not necessarily my favorite David Lynch film, but I'm about to go on that David Lynch journey, so you'll see more of this here in a second. But I think this was a good pairing with this next film that I picked up over in the UK over in the summer. I picked it up, and under Sam's recommendation, he talked about this movie. It is a film directed by Laura Citarella and came out in 2022. It is from Radiance Films. Spy number 62. It is Trinque Laquin, which is Round Lake. It's an Argentinian film that is separated into two parts. It's a little over 4 hours. It's 135 minutes and 139 minutes. So there's two parts, and wow, what a fascinating journey. I had to break this down into several days to watch this pairing, and one that I really was fascinated every single time that I would stop it and just have a little bit of space between what I was watching and what was about to happen on screen. So this is a mystery of sorts. There's Laura. Might be a little bit of a connection to Laura Palmer, so there might be some David Lynch stuff already going on here, who has mysteriously disappeared. And these two men at the beginning in part one, who are her old boyfriend, and a new fella who is in here. I'm going to butcher their names, so I'll just put it right here. But they are on the hunt for Laura and trying to figure out what's gone with her. And so this story kind of goes back in time, back and forth into the present day, and just sees these two individuals, these two guys who are going through these towns trying to find Laura and trying to piece together where she might be. And meanwhile, there's a lot of weird things going on in the background. But in the first part in particular, the not boyfriend, but the other man, he actually had been hanging out with Laura, who is a botanist, and she has been picking flowers and doing these jobs just around the town, and he's been helping her. But they discover this secret romance, this affair that is between a lot of books that they found. And so they're just enthralled by this mysterious, discovery of theirs, and they slowly fall in love with each other. And I just love the way the camera kind of just lingers and stays focused on to the story itself, about this romance that is really subtle, and honestly maybe not super expressed, but I think the actions speak louder than the words itself. So watching this first half was really kind of a delight, and as the shift to the second half, you kind of realize that the mystery starts getting a little bit trippier. And as we get to the second half, we actually kind of find out what Laura has gone through and where she was during this entire period. And part 2 delves into that, and she actually is a regular radio guest on this show that she is constantly part of, also doing her botany work and discovering these letters. But also, during one of her trips as she was going through the town, she's kind of instructed by this lady who she mysteriously meets, who is pregnant and definitely acts very strange, to get some yellow flowers. And then all of a sudden it kind of turns into this strange thing where there is this mysterious creature in the lake itself, in Trinquet-la-Queen, and they don't know if it's human or if it's an alligator or some kind of hybrid of both. You delve into this weird, mysterious world of where she just kind of starts walking into, and it's just really fascinating. And the way that this kind of blends together, because those stories sound quite different, right? You're trying to figure out what's going on. It is very, to lack of a better term, it's that surreal mystery that exists that it just lingers with you, and you're just fascinated by what's going to happen next. And maybe there's never an answer you're going to get that you expect, and that's totally fine. And I love that. And that's a recent feeling of mine with a lot of the things that I've been watching. So it's been really fun to kind of explore that. And yeah, this film right here is a really fantastic one. I'd give it a 4.5 out of 5. It is a little long, so it's definitely a grind to get into, but I think it is a fantastic film, one that Argentina should be very proud of, and one that I'm really excited to delve into in the future. And yeah, I highly recommend people check this film out. Trinquet-la-Queen. It is a phenomenal piece of work. And as we end this, I want to talk about a little show that I had time to watch the first season, because it's only 6 episodes. It's a BBC show. It is Ghosts. I picked this up not too long ago, but I think I got it on a Flash Day sale or something. But this is the complete collection. I only watched the first season, which I will get more into as I go on throughout just kind of my film watching. I love watching these kind of shows in between that. But this has been a really delightful comedy of these bumbling idiot ghosts who are in this kind of estate that is in disrepair, but it has a lot of history to it, because there's a lot of different ghosts from different time periods. But we have this young couple played wonderfully by these characters down here, who are just kind of like everyday schmucks like us, if you will, and they kind of inherit this house. And there's a lot of really weird things happening, especially in the first couple of episodes, but you can see these ghosts trying to get these people out, but in the dumbest of ways. And it's such a delightful series that it makes me chuckle quite often about just the mundane kind of things that are happening in the background, but also just the extravagant things that are trying to get them out of there. But in the first episode, we have a near-death experience where she eventually gets to see the ghosts, and so she starts reasoning and negotiating with them, and honestly, they just become a family. And it's really heartwarming and fun, and definitely a story that I'm excited to dive further into as we see these 5 seasons, I believe, and some Christmas specials on here. But it's been a fun show. I've been having a good time with it, and it's quite clever and quite funny. So definitely check out the BBC version of Ghosts. That's the one I'm watching. So as I said at the beginning of the video, be sure to join me this weekend as we get into the 28th for the live stream, for the double feature live stream, the peculiar pairings, if you will. And also, I'm queuing up for October, so there's going to be a video this week, maybe jumping into what my plans are for the week. For the month, that is, of October, and I'm excited to know what you might be doing for October. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of this film journey. Hope you enjoyed some of the pickups and some of the things that I've been watching, and yeah, I will see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.